Good evening, everyone. We're live right now, and apologies for the delay. We just had some technical issues here. So just before we go live, I will just spend about 30 seconds introducing how today's session is going to work. We have our esteemed guest with us, and I'm going to go through a set of questions first, and as we get towards the end, I will verbally announce when it is time to begin sending in your viewer questions. So without further ado, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Allard-Will, and I will be your guest this evening. And I'm joined today by Lovern Kindzierski. Um, Lovern, could I get you to introduce both yourself and your work, please?
Oh, I am Lovern Kindzierski, and I have been working in the comic book industry since the 80s. I was known primarily as a colorist, but had a need to tell stories of my own, so I looked around till I got an opportunity to do some writing, and I've been writing since the 90s.
Fantastic. And so, how does somebody get into being a colorist in the comic book industry?
Well, these days I'm not certain. I think that you could have a DeviantArt page and you could be contacted by an editor. But back when I did it, it was I had to start as an assistant to a colorist on a book and work that way. Um, and again, as today, it used to be you could go to a convention and show your stuff to an editor, get a review, maybe get a call back. But with this virus raging about us, that's not possible anymore. So I'm guessing that you just have to put yourself out there and hope that an editor is looking at your stuff and is interested enough to give you a shot at it and give you a tryout story to color.
Fantastic. And with your work as a colorist, I understand that you began, as you say, like a color assistant for George Freeman, the illustrator, or sorry, he began his career as the illustrator for Captain Canuck. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And what's that experience like, building up from being a color assistant into being a colorist?
Um, well, it was initially it was the difference was when I would go to the comic book stores and see the comic book on the shelf, it had my name on it instead of George's. Because when I first started out, I was working as his assistant, so I was uncredited. So suddenly I was doing the same work, but now I could go and see my name in the comic book as the colorist, and that was a treat. But after that, it was back to the studio and the same old grind.
Okay, and so you've transitioned from being primarily known as a colorist into today being primarily known as a writer for comic books. Um, how do you make that transition?
Slowly, basically, I had to find opportunities to do writing, and I did some work here and there. Like certainly, I worked on a book called The Victorian with a company, a small press company called Penny Farthing, and I wrote there for a while, and then with that and the and my initial story was actually done for a fundraiser that Marvel was doing to raise money for AIDS, and so my first story was unpaid because it was donated to the charity. So I used those opportunities working with smaller publishers and that, much the same as I did with my coloring, to get a tryout at at Marvel or in and wrote some stuff for them, working with Keith Giffen on a character, and then same thing again, working with another writer on work for Dark Horse, and once the editor realized that I knew what I was doing, that I was going to keep in touch with him and not disappear, and that I knew how to write a story, and it was a good story. Then beyond after that, then they're like, oh, do you have other ideas, etc.
That's fantastic. And then from there, you transitioned to your first feature-length graphic novel that you had penned as the writer. That was Shame with Renegade Arts Entertainment.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Oh, that was unbelievable because I'm sure, like many writers would understand, that you have so many ideas that you have cooking around that you carry along behind you in a trunk, and then and some of them, like in the case of Shame, had been around. I had originally pitched it to John Bolton 20 years before the actual book came out, and he had said yes, and we had talked to. Initially, we had talked to Vertigo and a bunch of others, and nobody was interested until we talked to Dark Horse. Then Dark Horse basically said they were going to publish it, sent us a contract, and then other opportunities came up that they wanted to work with John on, and they kept him busy for a couple of years, so that the property or the contract went dead, and the stuff reverted back to us, and then we were left looking for a place for, it seemed like forever, and then I was talking to Renegade about doing color for them, and I had been encouraged by somebody, one of the other artists, to pitch them on this story, and so I pitched it to Alexander, and he tells everyone about how he really was not expecting anything, and he was just going to politely listen to me, and then say, if you get another good idea, let us know, but we're not interested in that one. But he was so surprised that it was a great idea, and they loved it, and it got printed. Well, a year later after John painted it, but that was a heady time.
That's fantastic. And of course, we're here tonight to talk about Renegade's Arts Entertainment, because you do currently have a Kickstarter that is in conjunction with Renegade that is live right now. And that is for a title called Necromantic. Can you tell us a little bit more about Necromantic, please?
Oh, Necromantic is Necromantic grew out of the name, like the word necromantic, because you think of, it's love of the dead, and just things bounced around in my head until I had this idea for a woman. Well, first I had the idea that there are evil men who send people to their death so that they can build an army in hell, because they know that they are hellbound. And then I thought, well, how do you explore that story? And I had an idea for a female James Bond type. And I thought, well, if she was a powerful medium, then she would see the dead. But that wasn't enough. So I ended up coming up with a concept that I did for the book. And I'm not sure how much I should spill the beans on, because last time I was saying something, Alexander told me that I should save that. So I think I'll save the rest of it.
Fantastic. And that's a feature-length graphic novel again.
Yeah, it's a
It's
big one.
Yeah, and it's horror. I've heard it described by Alexander as horror meets action meets romance. So it's everything you could ask for, and it is available by the link in the description of this live video.
Okay.
So there are 13 hours left, I believe, as of right now. So there's a really short window to get involved. So please do, if you're watching this, go and check it out. You can back it on there, and it's going to be a fantastic book. Um, and also, this is something really different for Renegade. They've never done Kickstarter before, from what I understand.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if you know anything more about the story of why they've chosen to go this route.
Well, I think a lot of people are having to reinvent their business now because of COVID, and and I think that new business methods have to be explored. And I know this isn't exactly a new business method, but the way that Alexander is using it, I think, is a little more novel in that it's not like the book has been paid for and printed, but we can't go out and promote it and that. So we're using the Kickstarter as a kind of a virtual convention opportunity for people to get signed books and prints and the same sort of things that they would get when they met us. And we've also built in a sort of a live experience where they can interact with us through through what's being set up by Alex, that's offered on as one of the perks on the Kickstarter.
That's fantastic, and that does offer an opportunity that is going to be sorely missed by comic book fans this year
Oh
because of
yes.
all the pandemic and all of this. So that's a wonderful move they've made at Renegade there. So you told me something in email here earlier that I found really interesting, that you had at one time worked with Magic Johnson. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, uh, I was working with a friend of mine who's a producer in LA, and he was bringing to certain business dealings that he had the possibility of comic books as a new way to educate people about a business or an event or things like that. And he had been talking to Magic Johnson about a charity event that Magic Johnson puts on, and he had explained that that Magic could use comics in that to reach out to people, to bring more money to the and participation to the event. And so he set up a meeting, and he also runs the Black panel at the San Diego Comic Convention. And so he thought, since we're going to invite Magic down to the convention and that, we can have him as part of this panel, and we can do this business meeting and that. And so just before I was about to meet them, I got a call from my friend Michael Davis, and he told me that he had been caught up, just a really crazy thing with that held him up, and he was going to be late. And so he told me where to go, and that he said, you won't miss him because it's Magic Johnson, and you need to go and introduce yourself and look after them and take them to do this and this and this until I catch up with you guys. So I was sort of thrown into that, and I ended up having to go to a different location. And I don't know if you've been to the San Diego Comic-Con, but to have to run across the convention hall to the other side that you're at is well, I wouldn't say it's Olympic class, but it's work. And so I, rushed over there and got to where Magic and his people were, and introduced myself to one of the guys there, and then they brought me in, and I spoke to Magic, and we went and I sort of took him around, and then we got contacted by Michael, and then we had the meeting and stuff like that. But I ended up working with him to do. We did a comic book, like a mini comic book. I forget it. I think it was only like 8 pages or something like that of promotional stuff for him, as well as I think some stuff for the charity. And no, I don't have any photographs of us together.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So that is my final question here. So viewers, now is your chance, if you wish to ask Lovern questions, to start typing those out. But while you're typing those out, Lovern, I'm going to ask you what I ask every person that I have on these live interviews. What advice would you give to newcomers to comics who are looking to make their own comics for breaking in?
Oh, okay. Well, I think that that never before has there been a more wide open market that's ready for a lot of different styles, and that's in the art and storytelling, like writing and that. And I think that what they need to do is to not try and think about an archetypical style and try to be, you don't want to be you don't need to be a Jim Lee or Neil Adams or even a Jack Kirby, but you need to develop your style and bring that out there, because they're not looking for people to copy someone. They're looking for the next exciting point of view, and whether that's in writing or color or in penciling or inking, that's what people are looking around for now. They're looking for the next great flavor. And so what you need to do is to develop what as George Freeman told me once, you need to really develop what your hand wants to do, because there's you can try and draw like somebody else in that, but your hand will want to draw the way it wants to draw. And once you realize what that style is, you need to develop that, and then splash it all over the social media and get people to notice it, whether it's, like in my case, like looking for a charity event that'll allow you to do it, or maybe taking a lesser amount to do something to get in print, or to do what anybody can do now, is self-publish on social media and blow your horn and make people know where you are, and word will get around.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have any viewer questions tonight.
That's all right.
But honestly, Lovern, this has been a real privilege and an honor to interview you. And
okay.
For the viewers out there, like we say, please do go and support the Kickstarter here for Necromantic. It is the clickable link in the description of this live video. And that is in conjunction with Renegade Arts Entertainment. Actually, we do have one question here before we go, and that's from Alexander Info. And he asks, what is next for your writing?
What is next for my writing?
Yep.
I have a few pages of script to do on the next installation in the Hope trilogy, or the Shame Adventures. It's going to be the second book in that trilogy, and And I will be scripting that and then dropping that in Alexander's hands, and he'll slap me about the head and shoulders to tell me to fix up the messes that I've made and bring out the better writing for me or from me. And then after that, I'm working on a story I call Faust, and I haven't found a publisher for that yet.
Fantastic. All right, thank you so much. And like we say, don't dilly-dally. There's only 13 hours left on the Necromantic Kickstarter. Go and check that out. There are links to some other examples of Lovern's work also in the description of this live video. Please check those out. And Lovern, thanks again. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on at such short notice.
It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Like, share, subscribe.